Woman waits for first love for over 50 years, wears wedding dress at age 83. In a time when tradition often spoke louder than the heart, a quiet love story began in the spring of 1953 on a university campus in Hangzhou, China. It wasn't fiery or dramatic, just two souls, a language teacher and her student, finding comfort in conversation and connection. But behind every stolen glance and shared umbrella was a world that wouldn't let them be. This is the extraordinary true story of a love deferred, not denied, a journey of longing, loss, and the courage to believe in second chances across time and continents. First love in a time of tradition and separation. In the spring of 1953, on the peaceful campus of Zhejiang Medical University in Hangzhou, China, a young love story quietly began. A Russian language teacher, Danni, then just 26 years old, was intelligent, graceful, and admired by all. Her background was as unique as her spirit. Born to a French mother and a Chinese musician father, fluent in 4 languages and cultured in both Eastern and Western traditions. Among her students was Yuan Dibao, 25 at the time, a focused, brilliant young man studying medicine. He quickly stood out in her class and was soon appointed class monitor. This meant he and Danni often spoke about classwork, culture, and life. With each conversation, admiration deepened into affection. What began as academic dialogue evolved into companionship. They shared walks after class, rainy afternoons huddled under the same umbrella, and promises beneath starry skies. Their connection was quiet but powerful. 2 minds and hearts finding harmony during a time of great formality and social conservatism. But love in 1950s China did not come freely. By 1955, their world began to shift. Yuan's medical program was transferred to West China Medical College in Chengdu, far from Hangzhou. And with this change came a revelation. Yuan had been promised in marriage by his parents to a nurse. It was a common practice at the time. Families arranged marriages to ensure their children would settle down and return home, especially when studying far away. For Yuan, disobeying this tradition wasn't an option. When he told Danni the truth, it crushed both of them. He loved her, but his sense of duty and cultural obligation pulled him in another direction. Danni, with grace and selflessness, chose to walk away. She told him that she could not find happiness at the expense of another woman's heart. Her mother, too, advised her to let him go. Their final promise? If they were ever apart, they would look up at the same stars to feel each other's presence. And then, the silence began. Lost letters and silent hearts, the 54-year wait. For a brief time after Yuan's departure, the two continued writing letters. They tried to keep the connection alive through ink and paper, but it was difficult. In 1956, Danni moved to France with her family, and in the tumultuous years that followed, including the Cultural Revolution, China was changing rapidly. One day in 1960, the letters suddenly stopped. Unbeknownst to Yuan, Danni had received an anonymous letter warning her to stop writing to him, that her correspondence could put him in danger. Alarmed and afraid for his safety, she ceased communication. Yuan, on the other hand, never stopped writing. Each unanswered letter left him confused and heartbroken. Eventually, life moved forward. Yuan honored his arranged marriage and built a life with his wife. They had 3 sons and created a family, but the memory of Danni never faded. Even in his happiest family moments, her absence left a quiet ache in his heart. He never forgot the woman who had once sung a Russian song to him on a hillside hike, a song he didn't understand then, but memorized anyway, just to translate later. In France, Danni never married. Her love for Yuan, though unspoken, remained unbroken. Decades passed, friends aged, lives changed, and the seasons turned, but Danni never found another partner. When people asked her why, she only smiled and said her heart had made its choice long ago. In 1994, after over 40 years of marriage, Yuan's wife passed away from cancer. Now widowed, his health began to decline. His hearing faded, his eyesight blurred, and it was then, at his most vulnerable, that he began speaking more freely about the love he had lost. One day in 2010, Yuan told the full story to his daughter-in-law. She listened carefully. When he finished, she gently encouraged him to try one last time. She suggested he write to Danni, to her last known address in France. And so, with trembling hands, Yuan wrote not one, but 5 identical letters. He wrote one to Danni directly and 4 to her family members, hoping that at least one would find her. He poured his heart into them, unsure if she was still alive, if she would remember him, or if she would even want to hear from him. 17 days later, a miracle happened. Danni replied, "The wedding that touched a nation." When Yuan opened the envelope and saw Danni's handwriting, he burst into tears. She had received his letters, and she had never married. Her heart, it seemed, had waited too. From across continents, they began to write again, like old times, except now every word was filled with urgency, gratitude, and love. Yuan shared the news with his family, and together they made a decision: they would bring Danni home. On September 18, 2010, Yuan's daughter-in-law flew to Lyon, France to meet Danni. She was 83 years old and still radiant. She boarded the plane to China, where at the Xiamen airport, Yuan stood waiting with a bouquet of fresh flowers. When he saw her walk through the gate, he broke down in tears. They embraced finally after 54 years of silence. Just 3 days later, they registered their marriage. Then on September 26, 2010, they held a wedding ceremony that captured the hearts of millions across China. The story was picked up by national news outlets and shared widely online. People were stunned and deeply moved by the purity of their bond. And for the first time in her life, at 83 years old, Danni wore a wedding dress. It was not just a celebration of marriage, but of a love that had endured time, silence, and distance. The ceremony was modest but filled with emotion. Yuan, aged 82, looked at Danni like a young man in love, and she looked back with the same adoration. After decades apart, they were finally together. In the years that followed, the couple lived peacefully in Xiamen with Yuan's family. Their love story became a symbol of hope, patience, and faith, a reminder that love, when true, never truly fades. In 2017, 7 years after their reunion, Yuan passed away peacefully. He died in Danni's arms, the same arms he had longed for since his youth. His final moments were filled with the comfort of knowing that he had returned to the one he loved most. A love letter to the world. The story of Li Danni and Yuan Dibao is more than just a romantic tale. It is a testament to the power of enduring love, to the quiet courage of letting go, and to the miracle of second chances. At a time when relationships often feel fleeting and transactional, their devotion reminds us of something deeper, a soul-level connection that spans decades, borders, and lifetimes. Danni's choice to wait and Yuan's resolve to find her again created a love story that defied time itself. They lost nearly all their adult lives to circumstance and silence, but in their final years, they found not only each other, but peace. And perhaps that is the most beautiful kind of love, not the one that burns brightly and fades, but the one that stays, quietly, patiently, until the time is right. May we all have the courage to love like that.